It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
See y'all meet me here. Welcome to Mr. Rodgers'z, Mr. T. Rodgers'z, neighborHOOD. Let me greet you in the universal greetings of Assalamu alaikum, Abanjani, Hotep. Greetings, salute, all those universal greetings. Did you know that top of the morning, we said that a lot when I was in prison. Top of the morning is an Irish colloquialism. The Irish were actually slaves also. And top of the morning goes like Salam alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. And it goes like this. If one greets you with top of the morning, that whole greeting or colloquialism is top of the morning, and you would reply back by saying, a good afternoon and a wonderful evening to you, sir. That's that whole thing. However, we always only get half of what's going on, and we repeat and regurgitate the things that we say, not knowing the meanings of what we're saying. The words have meanings. So, as that you have been brought into my home, as you see, I take my shoes off. The reason why I take my shoes off is so that, and people take their shoes off, it's not so much that I was a practicing Muslim, but it is for you to stop and think and get rid of all of your negative thoughts before you enter into my house. Usually when I come into my house, I say these three words: a bio, which I'm asking my ancestors, can I enter the house without bringing that negativity to me? As you see, I set up this altar to honor my ancestors. I've got to say this. My handlers, my managers, even the crew says, my information will be harmful to you and others, so please listen at your own discretion. A speaker of truth has no friends and seldom lovers. So I go by truth by my own life experience, and there's nobody that can argue with my own life experience because I've experienced it. Well, with that being said, I want to just share some of the topics that this particular show we'll be talking about. We're going to cover certain things like, first thing, one of the things that we're going to cover is the SELF program, the Survival Education for Life and Family. SELF, S-E-L-F, Survival Education for Life and Family. We'll talk about guerrilla gardening. We'll talk about urban survival. I was told not to use the word urban. We'll talk about street survival. We'll talk about financial literacy. We'll talk about generational wealth. We'll talk about parenting. Well, of course, we're going to talk about gangs and solutions. Not no gang goofy ass shit. Don't ask me about no stories and none of that. I am a griot, but I don't tell those type of stories. What I do and what this show is really about is dispensing information through edutainment on the emphasis and the foundation and the end game of giving nothing but solutions. We'll talk about homeschooling. Why would I want to send my children to be taught by slave masters? We'll talk about schooling versus homeschooling, about the socialization of bringing our children up. We'll talk about spirituality. We'll talk about actually the woman, and is she greater than man? Is woman actually God as opposed to worshiping the Father? We'll talk about just some of these things, and all I'm doing is just talking. I'm not saying that this is the correct way, for that we all have our own beliefs, and within those beliefs comes cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you are beat with a bag of facts and you still believe in what you believe in. So I don't, at my age, I don't argue with anybody. What you believe in is what you believe in, and all that I do is just share my life experience of what I've been going through. We're going to talk about building a full-time gangbanger survival kit. We'll talk about getting out of jail free. We'll talk about We'll talk about my new book that's coming out. It's the 50 most asked questions about gangs. We revisited. We'll talk about the other book about there's 9 levels, 9 steps, 9 trials to becoming a triple OG. You don't age into becoming a triple OG. We'll talk about parenting. We'll talk about how not to become a professional victim. Well, one of my favorite topics is talking about forgiving oneself. It's easy to forgive somebody that has transgressed against you, but the hardest thing to do is to forgive yourself. Once you learn how to forgive yourself, and that begins with you knew what they were when you met them. Forgive yourself for even getting in their way. It's not their fault that they are who and what they are. It's your fault for entertaining them, thinking that you can change them. You can elevate them, but you can't change them. We'll talk about the rites of passage for this generation, for little boys and little girls. We'll talk about everything that they never talked about in institutionalized school. We'll talk about things that they never talked about in certain... And we'll talk about things that they don't talk about and just educational facilities. And really, nothing is out of bounds. However, 3 things: politics, sex, and religion will get you into a fight or a verbal argument every time. We sort of stay away from that because your belief is your belief, and I'm not here to argue with you about anything. I just drop facts. If you pick them up, you pick them up, and if you don't, you're gonna trip over them. It's truly up to your liking. We'll talk about cooking. We'll talk about holistic and healthy, organic way of living. Did you know that there is actually medicine in the food without taking pharmaceuticals? Because if you take a pharmaceutical, you'll get cured for one thing, but you'll get 2 other side effects. So these are just some of the things that we'll be talking about. It will be, this is on the foundation of edutainment. We're going to really make it fun and interesting for you to retain some of this information that we're going to pass out. With that pretty much just explains what this show is going to be about. There's much more. Of course, I want to talk about today's music. I will talk about rappers who think that they are messengers for this generation. And if you don't have anything to say positive about this generation, then you should shut your mumble rapping motherfucking jail trapping ass. That didn't come out my mouth. I don't know where that came from, but I don't have anything against rappers. I just have things about what you say. Case in point, come back with the clip empty. Anybody who's ever been in a firefight or who has been trained in guerrilla warfare know that you do not come back with it. That is so asinine. And rappers always rap about things that they don't know about, only because it rhymes. But it rhymes. Oh, last thing, we'll talk about tattoos and why people get tattoos too. So what I'd like for you to do is just stay tuned, and we're going to have a lot of fun sharing information and talking about things. All right? I look forward to you, and as I always say, sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. 1, 2, 1, 2. Forgive me, for I am forgiving myself. I am T. Rodgers'z, and I will see you at the next episode.